So I think the key thing starts with when you are walking into varsity as a student. Even maybe when you're a third year or whatever it is, you can still make these kinds of calls. You have to decide what you want the outcome of your varsity career to look like as you're walking in, ideally. So, which will channel quite a lot of what you will pay attention to while you're in school, and it will also channel where you try and, I guess, broaden your exposure.
So, Kalakos Kraleda, and you
Sure.
come to Johannesburg, the big cities, and for us, the rural kids, when we come to Johannesburg, I used to joke with the students saying that the first time I actually had cheese was at Rest in Joburg. I mean, at Rest when
Sure.
I was coming here as a student. Even the first time I showered, and some of the students
Sure.
were even shocked to be like, really? And it's the
Sure.
reality for most of us. And you come into the University of Johannesburg, and there is even now the university experience now. How was that for you at
Sure.
UJ?
I think as is the case with a lot of guys that come from the villages, there's that time where you're a bit overwhelmed with everything, because obviously the city life is faster. There's too many things happening, and there's always something happening. And then equally so, there's also a lot of distractions that one could have easily fallen into. My transition was made easier because of my. So I have a relationship with Albakwe Dipale. You know Dips
I know
Dipale.
the man. I know the man. Yeah.
Of course, you know the man. So yeah, so I've met him maybe about grade 11 or so. He
Oh,
was doing some sort of a CCSF workshop there in Hammanskraal, and met him. I basically, like, we pretty much clicked there right there and then. So when I got to UJ, that's the first person that I contacted to say, hey, where's this thing called the CCSF? And then he linked me up with the right people. So that's how I then ended up at the CCSF. And obviously, through that kind of a structure that is consistently there, that is consistently supportive, that can also consistently put your life into nice into a nice structure where you know that on these days I'm going to church choir, on this day I'm going to night vigil or whatever. It helps occupy that free time that you could have easily used to I guess mess up your varsity life, I guess. So yeah, that was the key thing for me. And obviously as the years go, I then got more and more involved into that arrangement. So yeah, that's what made it easier. But equally so, it's not like while I was at the res, there weren't those other temptations. There's a place called Stones there. I think it's in Melville or something. So I would have guys who I'm living in the same cluster. I would be going there. But ordinarily as well, you also have to rely on who you are as well as a person.
sure.
So yeah, one's character then kind of gets very clear out in those kinds of instances. Yeah, I
And
guess we all survived it. Yeah,
yeah, we did. We really did. That a lot of
yeah,
temptations, like you say, and I
correct,
think
correct.
my journey is similar to yours, as much as university
Sure,
experiences. I actually used to say to people close to me that my whole university experience was just ZCCSF. So, by the way,
sure,
ZCCSF, for those that will be watching this, is the Zion Christian Church Student Fellowship. At universities, that different societies or clubs, as they call them, and as you say this, I think the importance or the takeaway here, because I actually met you through that and through leadership.
sure,
I think we were
sure,
we experienced leadership probably at the same time, and you start to also learn other skills that you actually need to learn as a student, that you're actually going to
Sure.
use when you actually get out of the system or when you get to corporate and stuff like that. I want us to touch
Sure.
base on that. What would you say that in the campus level, what are some of the skills? Because you're already in industry, you're not longer reading books that are very big. I used to see accounting students reading these big books. Like I used to be like, they actually made me like I'm not schooling. I'm like, Evan, like these people. How can you read such big books? But you yourself,
Yeah.
you're in the industry now. We're talking about application, of course. We're also talking about theory. But in terms of skills or the skill set.
Sure. So I want to I want to quickly broaden your question there a bit. So I think the key thing starts with when you are walking into varsity as a student, even maybe when you are a third year or whatever it is, you can still make these kinds of calls. You have to decide what you want the outcome of your varsity career to look like as you're walking in, ideally. So, which will channel quite a lot of what you will pay attention to while you're in school, and it will also channel where you try and, I guess, broaden your exposure while in school. Because in my case, I knew that I wanted to train in a bank, so I knew that my path as a chartered accountant is I need to do this 3 years of training. The question was then, where do I want to do this training? And that's why I decided, okay, I want to be in a bank, and I have my own reasons. Perhaps we'll talk about those later. So um, out of that, then I knew that for me to be in a bank, I needed to also have a very broad CV, a well balanced CV. So I need to have good academics, good socials, good corporate exposure. While still at varsity, I also needed to make sure that my what do you call it? My social responsibility element of it is also reflected in the in the CV. So fortunately, when you join an organization like ZCCSF, it takes care of quite a couple of these things, right? And also the leadership aspect of it as well. So those things are also like what you could call elements of some of the elements of a balanced CV, I guess you could say. So what then happened was that with me, I made sure that while I'm at varsity, I made sure that I exposed myself to the corporate world as far as possible. And what that meant was um, applying for vacation work as much as I could. Like whatever vac work came, I had to apply for it. I remember at the beginning of each term, I would sit with my calendar, I would then go, okay, for this company, when is this thing opening? For this company, when is this opening? And I would do all of that and apply where I need to apply, set reminders. Like almost every recess, actually, I think all of them, every recess that I had at school, I was doing something with a corporate. I think, let me, if I could recall, in first year, June recess, I was at PwC doing their vac-work. I think that December, in first year, I did EY. The following year, I think I did KPMG. Then I also did Nedbank as well. I also did First Rand. I did Sanlam. I did Rothschild. So those are just some of the corporates that I made sure that I exposed myself to. And just see how these guys do it. So what ordinarily happens is that, and this is more directed towards the CAs part of your audience, in these vac-works, you get to engage with CAs that some have qualified, and in some instances, those that are actually doing the training. So you get to ask those questions, and you get to hear it from the horse's mouth what they do on a daily basis. So when you get to the end of your fourth year on your CTA year, and you're applying for a job in a bank, when you tell that bank that I don't want to be, I don't know, maybe I don't want to be in auditing, you have a very concrete reason why you don't want to be in auditing, because you have been in auditing throughout your third year, throughout your studies. You've exposed yourself there, you know what's happening there. Instead of just saying, yeah, I do want to be in a bank, and you want them to take you at your wage. So yeah, corporates are key while at varsity, that exposure. And then the university itself as well has its own initiatives of making sure that they develop you as an individual over and above as a student. So you just mentioned that we met through leadership. So those leadership skills, I got them through the ZCCSF. where I was a chairperson. I think you were also chair when we were. Yeah, that's correct. So yeah, where we were chairperson and you are leading this organization, you've got there's so many dynamics that are happening. You know this best. There's so many things that you are always juggling around, and those skills you can actually put them out there in your interview. You can actually talk to them and say, hey, I've been in this situation, I've dealt with this kind of instance of situations. And when you've got an experience that you can link to your CV, it makes it more credible, right? So then there's the tutoring opportunities, which I also did, um, varsity tutoring maths and whatever else. So yeah, it was really a matter of trying to make sure that my CV was well balanced. And then there's the other societies, War Golden Key and the rest of them. If you're not a ZCCSF fan or a member or anything, hell, there's like your Golden Keys in this world and the other societies that you can actually engage and take a leadership role. Ordinarily, you wouldn't start by being a leader. You start being a member, prove yourself. Like with me, I started as a member at CCSF. I then was a deputy secretary, then became chair. So yeah, apply yourself in those kinds of environments, and then one should be fine as far as building that CV is concerned.
And that's what I call the university experience, and in two forms here, because I was talking to this other first year some other day, and we were talking about the university experience as we were just talking about these things. And I realized that
Sure.
with him, he thought that the university experience is actually about the parties, all of the fun and everything.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, that is there, of course, it's part of the university experience.
Sure.
But the big part of the university experience is actually you building the skill set, what we call
Sure.
soft skills, communication, leadership, and everything like that, because you're going to
Sure.
need them as you go forward. So I think it's very good as you elaborate that students should actually, in campus, should not just be about academia, but they also should,
Sure.
involve themselves in societies and clubs, or there's a lot of activities that one can actually do
Sure.
in campus.